All right, well, Casey here with CL Creative, where I'm teaching you web design and Webflow one video at a time. And today I want to talk to you about fluid typography. Yes, how do you get your site typography to look nice and smooth on all breakpoints? Working with fluid typography is going to allow your design to remain pretty consistent. And so you're not going to have this text that's, say, 3.5 rem, but it's almost down to the tablet breakpoint where it would break down to 3 rem. And it will make sense that your typography is at 3 rem at this point. And it's going to be all squished up and just kind of like really hard to read, or it's just going to make your design look terrible. So let's jump into the computer and let's check out how we can use fluid typography in our projects. I'm going to give you 2 ways to do this, but let's jump into the computer and I'll show you how to do it. All right, well, here we are in the computer, and one of the things I want to show you is this fluid typography. And so what do I mean by that? So as you scale, you're going to see that text. You see how it's just nice scaling up and down, right? It's not jumping around. It's just scaling up and down there on this breakpoint. Now, how do you do that? Well, one of the things that you're going to need to do, and I'm going to have this in my global embed, so I'm going to open this up here just as we start out. One of the things that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to have a clamp function, right? And so it needs to be applied to the root of your project. And then this clamp function is going to be applied, or this variable is going to be applied later on. And so this is kind of the base, right? This is where you need to start, or this is where we're going to end up. But let me just exit out of here for now, and I'm going to go over here to this typography variables panel. So Webflow has changed up things quite a bit over the last, say half a year. And so some of my stuff has kind of moved around in different parts of my project. And so at this point, I'm on the variables panel. I can click on typography. And some of the things that you can do is you can actually create different breakpoints, and you can create different breakpoints. This is the base mode. I really don't do that too often in my projects. I tend to, use fluid typography for that. And so what I've done is I've just gone through and I've created a bunch of different variables for all of my typography. So you have your H1, I've got my displays, goes all the way down here to text regular. Maybe I'll make another video on how I have this set up, but this is my variables for typography. And then if we jump over here to my style guide, you're going to see that if we just click on, say, this one right here, for instance, or even this one right here, and we look at the style panel, what you're going to see is that I have all of my text linked up to particular variables. So I have my font family linked up. This is an H1, so it's linked up to the font family for H1. If we click off of that, you're going to look at the weight, right? That's going to be linked up to H1 as well. But what we're really interested in here is the sizing. And so I have this variable linked up here to the size. Now, if that's true, I only have one variable and it's only going to focus on one breakpoint. So the way I have this particularly set up right now is that this 4 rem for my H1 should apply to every single breakpoint. And that's not what we want, right? Like we want it to break as we go down in size. So what I have done is I created this global embed, and inside of this global embed, I've applied to the root of my HTML or my project here. I have, let's just focus on the H1 for now. We can even zoom in a little bit more. Maybe that will mess up on the Screen Studio, but here's what I have, right? I have this is the variable. So the way that you get that, let me go back to my variables panel, typography. You go right here after you've created the variable, you pick size, and you click on these 3 dots, and then you go copy CSS. So you see that it's copied my variable there. Now, we're not necessarily going to use that full variable. Let me open all this back up again. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to paste that in. And we're going to get rid of the var in front, right? And then we're going going to do this, and we're going to make sure that we put a colon here. Now, what we need to do is we need to get our clamp function. So how do we build this clamp function? Because this is really what is controlling the fluid typography. Well, if I hop back over here into my Figma design for this particular project, and if we just focus on this H1 again, you notice that this is at 56 pixels or 3.5 rem. And on mobile, and this is what you really need to know, you got to know both values. So you need to know what is the largest that you want your particular piece of type, and what is the smallest that you want that type, and what breakpoint is that going to be. So on mobile, so we're going to focus on desktop and mobile portrait. So if you notice, I have 3.5 rem and 2.5 rem. So what you can do at this point is you can go over here to the CSS calculator. Kevin Geary has made this calculator, and what you want to do if you first come to this, it might be at 62.5%, but what you really want to do is you want to put it on 100%. And then at this point, what you need to do is pick where you want your max device size. This is where do you want it to be this. So if we just change ours to what we were at, 3.5, and then if I pop back over into Figma, we can see what that was, 2.5. So we're going to change this to 2.5. And you're going to notice that this down here is our clamp function, and this is auto updating as I put that in. But here's some of the important pieces. You need to pick what you want your max device size to be. 1366 is, in my opinion, a good size to pick, because this is going to work with your actual container that you're working with in your project. And then this right here, I don't like to go all the way down to, like, some people want to put it like 325 for mobile. Typically, like most mobile devices, really 350 is kind of where they're at. And so what I want is I want this mobile size to be the smallest before it gets down to, say, like an iPhone Pro model. And so I just picked 375 for mine. So I put in my max, I put in my min, I get my clamp function right here. And then I can go back over here to my Webflow project. And earlier, if you remember, we put in this variable here, or we started to create our variable, if you will. So we're not using it, but we're creating it here. Then you just copy and paste in that clamp. And then one thing you have to remember is, you see how you have the semicolon? You've got to put that semicolon there. Now, this H1 right here is going to be responsive. It's going to shrink as the screen shrinks, and it's going to grow as the screen grows. And you're going to do the same thing for, you see here, I have it for everything. I've got it for my display. I have this for my headings primary, all of my different H1s. In this particular project, I have a secondary heading, and so I've done this for all of those. And then I've also done this for different text and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this for now, since I already have an H1. Now, all you have to do, click save that, and then all you have to do is go back over here to a style guide that you have set up, and you should have a style guide set up. You're going to click on your H1. You're going to make sure that you go to the actual tag, and then here is where you're going to select that particular variable. So very important that you have your variable already set up inside of this panel over here. And I like to set mine up in the typography, as I showed earlier. Now, I put these in just to kind of show me what the starting point is. This is not necessarily controlling anything at this point. The global embed is overriding everything. Now, another way that you can do this, and one of the things that Timothy Ricks has put out recently, is super helpful. You don't have to go off-site, get another calculator or anything like that. What you can do is you can go over here to the App Store. I've already got this installed, but we can search up Fluid Builder right here, and you would install this particular app, and then you can launch this app. Once you launch this app, it's going to present you with a screen like this. It's going to ask you again what your min and your max size is. You can leave it at 1440 if you would like, or you could change that, like I had in the other screen, to 1366. Was that correct? Let's see. Yes, 1366. You can set this to whatever you want. You're going to, again, set your your min size. So this is going to be the smallest that you want. So I like to set mine to 375. And then you're just going to add in the pixel values instead of the rem. So over here, you're making this conversion already to rem. Here, you can just add in the pixel values. And so what you're going to do is go down here to select a variable, and you're going to select one of your variables that that is there, right? If you don't necessarily see that variable, like here, this variable is not showing up for some reason. I have a bunch of other different variables that I could select, but the one that I really want to select for the H1 is not showing up. So what you can do is go back into the variables panel, like I showed you earlier, and essentially just do the exact same thing. So we can go over here to size, copy the CSS, go back over here, click on this, again, get rid of the var, and this last deal here. Now we have our variable that we want to work with. And so if we go back over to our Figma file, you are going to see that we have 56 and 40. So then all we would do is we would just enter this in 56, and then we would enter in, 40 pixels. And so it's going to kind of show you right here what that looks like. And then you can just continue to build this out. Once you are happy with that, you can just, exit out of that. Or actually, I think you don't need to exit out. Let me go back over here to the Fluid Builder. Let me launch that again. At this point, maybe you click Enter, Enable Clamp. Well, there's supposed to be what ends up happening, or what should happen. Let me look over here in the settings. If I go, there should be a Fluid Builder that gets added in. Let me look in here and see. There it is, fluid sizes, excuse me. This right here gets added in as a component. Once that gets added in as a component, you can just go to it and click it, and now it's on your page. And so just like I have this global embeds right here, you would essentially have this fluid component. You can put this inside of your global embeds. Now for me, this global embed goes on every single page of my website. And so this is what you would do. You would take this component and put that on every single page of your website. If you don't put that on your website, then that fluid typography is not going to work. So you need to make sure you do that. So you could put it inside of a global embed like I have here. You can just type, I pressed Command E, typed in fluid, and then you can stick this inside here. Now, the nice thing is that if you decide in the future that you don't want your H1 to be 56 pixels, you want it to be 72 pixels, well, all you have to do is come back over here to the app, go back into here to the Fluid Builder, change this to, say, 72 pixels. And then what's going to happen is now that I've made this change, this is going to auto update, and it's going to store that inside of this again for me. So here it is here. And this time it actually added it to the page. So maybe I just needed to tab through some things in order to get that on the page. But if for some reason for you, just like it happened for me, it did not get added to the page like it just automatically did there, then you need to make sure that you go and look inside of your components and add that to the page. So let's see if I have two now. I actually have two instances of that. And so what it did is it just pulled in an instance of that onto the page, which at this point is fine, right? I'm going to go ahead and delete this particular one here so that it is not in my project, because I've already had this applied in some other ways. And maybe I will go ahead and just delete it from here. Well, it's not allowing me to delete it from there. Let's show this instance. Let's see where this is at. Oh, it's on the home page. It actually got added to my home page. That's interesting. So here it is as well on the home page. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this from here. The point being, you need to make sure that you add this to each page on your website, or the fluid typography is not going to work. But that is another way to do it. I found this to be much faster. I've used this on some other client builds, and it's really nice, particularly if you need to go in and change some of the stuff. It just auto updates immediately for you. But again, make sure it's on every page or it's not going to work. The same with this, right? You have to have this global styles embed where I have a bunch of stuff, but I have this fluid typography in there. This has to go on every single page of my website in order for it to work. The other thing that you could do is you could put that up in the where is it at? The custom code section of your website. I'm just using FinSuite's tool here to get access to that. You could put this up here in the custom code section of your website. I don't really like to do that. I like to put a lot of stuff inside of this global embed, and particularly inside of this global styles folder. So that way I have immediate access to it. I know immediately what is controlling styles on the page. And if I need to add some other styles, then I can just do that right there. All right. Well, hopefully this helps you out. If you found this video valuable, give me a like. If you want more videos like this, then let me know. I'm happy to try to film any videos that you might want me to film, and hopefully you will start using fluid typography in all of your future Webflow builds. It's been a game changer for me, and it's been super helpful in making sure that my design stays consistent. Until next time.